And this band, the Mark and Maggie O'Connor album that you just released, that's a different band than the family band, right?
Yeah, we're a duo act.
Okay, so just a duo. And you've got the new album, Life After Life, that just came out, and you're touring on that right now. Tell us a little bit about the recording process of Life After Life.
Absolutely. So we came up with a lot of original songs, and we chose our favorite ones of those songs and headed over to Nashville to cut them, and added some a few of our favorite covers that we had worked up, and really, just dove into this project pretty comprehensively. We tracked it in Nashville at the Sound Emporium, and we had some original songs, a few that I co-wrote with Americana music great Joe Henry, and another Nashville songwriter, Jim Parker, and Maggie's singing lead, I'm singing harmony, and we tracked it over there with Dennis Crouch on bass and John Gardner on drums. Brought the project back to where we live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we did a lot of overdubbing of additional acoustic instruments of ours.
We also had Neil Capolino engineering,
yeah,
and it was really neat because the studio had great vibes in Studio A at the Sound Emporium in Nashville, because Alison Krauss and Robert Plant had been in there before us. So,
wow.
And we were using a lot of, I think Dennis Crouch, the bass player, he had played on that, as well as, sorry, we're getting a call we don't want.
No problem.
As well as Neil Capolino on the doing the engineering, and he's so great at capturing acoustic instruments, getting a beautiful sound. He Mark's guitar so beautifully, and that's where we got most of the rhythm and the singing. I actually ended up singing it live, basically on the album.
That's amazing. When you say sound engineer, that's different than a producer, right?
Yeah, so I produced this album. So yeah, from start to finish, I usually produce my albums, or at least co-produce them.
Sure.
But yeah,
It was amazing to see Mark produce this album because he was also performing at the same time. A lot of the time, like especially when we were in Nashville, our priority was to get the rhythm really solid, and Mark is pretty central in the rhythm section because it was just guitar, drums, and bass for that session, and then my vocals as well. But yeah, you should have seen his fingers at the end of that. Those days, they were black and blue, and Mark plays on heavy gauge strings
on the guitar,
on the Dreadnought, steel string guitar, so it's like piano wire almost.
Wow.
And he's just playing like take after take and happened to nail his parts, but also like producing, saying, can we do this drum part a little differently, or let's do this type of a bass line, all at the same time. He's a very good multitasker.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you all go into the songwriting process a little bit? I heard you say there were some co-writers on it. Is that for the lyrics, or how does that all work?
Yeah, in this case, I reached out to some great lyricists for several songs, and we went for the more poetic lyric direction.
Sure.
We were looking for a theme about just learning to love life again after getting through the pandemic, and I love creating the music to lyrics. There was one song in particular where Maggie wrote the lyrics, and I put music to it. That's "Ride Towards Home." And but that was really the basis for the co-writing ideas that we were. I was working with some really cool poetry and creating Americana music to it.
I love that. So you all have accomplished a tremendous amount in your time being professional musicians. You've played the Opry a bunch of times. You've won Grammys, including for the previous album you had with the O'Connor Family Band, I believe. The 2016 album, Coming Home. You've won CMA. You've won national fiddle, guitar, and mandolin competitions. So what do all these big accolades, how does that change your career as you've gone along? Does it help? Does it put you in a weird space?
Well, I guess I'm always, at least in the back of my mind, thinking of what I could do that would be new, that I hadn't done before. Which, as each year goes by, that those possibilities get a little bit more narrow.
Sure.
But this album really is a new project for me. First of all, I've been a long time, a composer. Composed the majority of my albums, and a lot of those compositions leap over into American classical music. So concertos and symphonies, chamber music. But this is the first album where I'm the chief songwriter for vocal songs. And this is the first album where I've produced a vocal album from start to finish and really, visualized it the entire way. And then, and also I'm singing harmony on everything. And that is a first for me as well. Meg's singing lead, I'm singing harmony. So there's a lot of duet vocals. So, even though some of this stuff is very familiar to me as a session player, my previous career in Nashville, kind of creating songs in the studio, really, in this case, being in charge of the whole thing from start to finish is a new project for me, and to do with my wife Maggie. She's so talented, not only on the violin, but as people can see now, as a vocal of Americana music.
I love that. If we can go back to the concertos for a second, are you all performing these, or is it like symphonies that will perform your compositions?
Yeah, Maggie and I just played with the symphony orchestra in Montana a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So sometimes we'll do a little bit of everything, actually. Mark's written so much that he's written a whole symphony, the Americana Symphony, and he doesn't actually perform on that. The orchestra will just perform that themselves. So some pieces he's written just for the orchestra, and some are concertos that he'll perform, or there's double concerto that he and I will perform. So we get a lot of variety in our life as performers. I'm really grateful for that, because we both have such a diverse background, like what you were talking about, all those awards and all these different styles of music that Mark has been successful in. So it's really great we can still perform in those genres as well.
That's really cool that you get to perform with symphonies. I would love to see something like that. So one song that was on your previous album, a Dolly Parton song, Wildflowers, or I guess it's a Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris song from their trio. And Mark, you played fiddle on that originally back in the 80s, I think, right?
Yeah, actually, Wildflowers is on the new album.
It's on the album. My fault.
Yeah, this is and that's our one of our new singles. It's streaming on a few different Spotify editorial playlists, including bluegrass covers playlist on Spotify and also newgrass playlist. So that song's doing pretty well for us. The it's Dolly Parton's song that she brought to that trio recording, and it was released as a single back then. That was 1987, and I was in my early 20s, and I was playing fiddle on that, and it was a top country song. And so when Maggie chose it to work up, we didn't know if we were going to record it or not, but it just became a favorite of ours very quickly. When we recorded it, we sent it to Dolly Parton's producer when we finished the recording of it a few months back, and he got it to Dolly, and Dolly heard it and she loved it.
Wow.
She wrote us a great note on it.
Oh, very cool. How sweet. So how did you end up playing on a Dolly Parton tune when you were in your early 20s? She was already well established by then.
Well, I was a session player. I moved to Nashville at age 22, and Chet Atkins invited me to Nashville to live and try my hand at a Nashville music career. And he was a mentor, and eventually I broke in as a session player, then almost immediately as a top session player. By the time I was 24, I was playing on most of the country albums out of Nashville, and that included Dolly Parton. So that's how it happened. I was hired on because of my recent reputation as a top fiddler in Nashville.
Very cool. And did you all meet each other in Nashville?
Maggie and I?
Mm-hmm.
We actually met in New York City, and we're here right now.
In New York.
Kind of going down memory lane as part of our tour. We played at the Iridium a couple nights ago. And it's been really fun to kind of reminisce about all the places we used to go, see if they're still there.
Yeah.
We even rode the carousel in Central Park. That's one of our favorite places. I like carousels, and we feature it in one of our music videos. Actually, we found another carousel in where we live now, near Charlotte.
Uh-huh.
And we feature it in the One Sunray at a Time music video.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So you all are in the middle of tour right now, and there's quite a few dates on that. Are you big touring musicians, or are you typically tied up with all of your other various projects? And just tell me how that process works.
We are touring now. So we got this album done, and for the next few years, we plan on touring it. And we love doing it as a duo. What we're basically doing is adding this album's repertoire into our existing instrumental music that we put on the show, which include fiddle music, bluegrass guitar solos, mandolin and fiddle, referencing some of my most popular instrumental pieces through the years, a little bit of American classical, so a reference to some of the projects I did with Yo-Yo Ma, and then these vocals, which is so cool because it's like in this setting, the vocals become almost like Americana art songs. with this beautiful poetry, and we just love kind of like this fusion of bluegrass, Americana, folk, and even a little bit of jazz and classical influences in our performing.
What kind of music and this can go for both of you, I'll let you both answer. What kind of music were you listening to before you became professional musicians? What really, got you going and made you love your instruments and playing music and making music?
Yeah, well, for me, my answer is a little silly, I guess, sounding, but I was a big Mark O'Connor fan. I just love how he can play all these different styles of music and create new music, like a new classical music almost. I went to school for classical violin, but I grew up doing, bluegrass and a bunch of different styles. And so I just wanted to aspire to be able to play at the highest level that I could within these styles and creating new styles like what Mark does. And so I just love his music so much, and that's also how we met too. So I'm so grateful to be playing music with him, and all these years. It's been about 10 years now. This is our 10th year.
Yeah.
I love that. What about you, Mark? What was your earliest memories of getting going with music?
Well, by the time I was out of my childhood, I had done almost like what a lot of people would consider an entire music career. So I was a traveling child musician, and I wrote a memoir about my exploits as a child musician, and it's called Crossing Bridges.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out. So who were you playing with at that time when you were a kid?
So I was traveling in the summer times when I was 13 and 14 with Jim and Jesse and the Virginia Boys.
Oh, wow.
And I was on the bus playing fiddle with one of the great bluegrass acts of all time. And then I was entering fiddle competitions, guitar competitions all around the country, starting at age 12, and winning half the time. So my book and memoir is about those crazy experiences as a kid playing in these genres where kids were not really, prevalent in these music styles until me and a couple others came along, Marty Stewart, Ricky Skaggs. But that was the era where we just broke open the doors for young people to really get into this music. And now, people I think even associate fiddling with kids these days, which was completely not the case when I first came on.
Wow, that's so cool. I wanted to ask about another, I guess, somewhat recent project that was a little bit of an outlier. You did a Ukrainian folk song, and I'll try to pronounce it, but I may botch it. I think it's Vergovaya Dosachechka, somewhere along those lines.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
Verbovoya Doshechka.
Much smoother. That sounded great.
So that's on our new album. So it's our Life After Life is all vocal album except for the final piece, which is a fiddle duet, and we chose this Ukrainian melody that we learned from some of the instrumentalists from the Kiev Symphony Orchestra online as Russia was invading their city.
Wow.
And it was a very profound moment where these violinists were reaching out to the world and wanted to share their story. And Maggie was a big part of this too. we ended up with an online violin choir that made it all the way to CNN.
It was called Violinists Support Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I think they still have a website up, and you can see the viral video that we were a part of. There were a lot of violinists that did it. And we were just so honored to be a part of that, to show our support. But we were so moved by it that Mark made an arrangement of that piece just for a duo, and he kind of gave it a little Americana flair. And we recorded it in this beautiful new hall at Belmont University in Nashville. They gave us the hall for the whole day, and we recorded this haunting, gorgeous melody there.
And it ends our album. So and two violins is the way that Maggie and I first met 10 years ago. So our journey starts with the two fiddles 10 years ago, and then it as the years go by, it transitions into a whole family bluegrass band. And then on the other side of the pandemic, Maggie and I are writing songs, putting vocal songs together, heading to Nashville, and then we end our vocal album back with just the two violins again, but with such a profound emotional tie to another kind of love, the love of democracy and liberty and fighting for your country. And so, yeah, the theme of our album is really all the different ways to love life and find a deeper meaning in life, and how you intersect that with music making.
Beautiful. It's incredible how those personal and worldly events kind of coincided and come together that way on your album. Have you, by chance, had any feedback or any connection with anyone in Ukraine since you've done that song? I don't know if you heard, if they were able to view anything like that or how they responded to it.
We've been in touch with, so if you see the original viral video, it starts with Ilya Bondarenko is his name, and I've stayed in touch with him through Instagram actually, and we would just check in with him, see how he's doing, throughout the conflict. And so it's been really great to be able to stay in touch, and he just really appreciates the support, and just the fact that we care, I think, is really important to show. And he's just so appreciative.
And one of the first things I did as soon as I finished the arrangement, composing the arrangement, is that I made it available in sheet music form for people to download from my website, marko'connor.com sheet music site. And so other people can play it. And, more specifically, I suppose, classical violinists. And so that's an exciting part of that piece coming full circle, is that we learn it from them, we create an arrangement, we put it on our album, and then we release the sheet music to the world for other people to eventually play in concert themselves.
I love that you share the music like that. That's incredible way of handling your artwork. Mark, what in the world are these O'Connor Method books? It looks like you have a whole college of instructional manuals. Will you tell us about this?
Yeah, the O'Connor Method, it was one of the final projects that I finished before leaving New York City and moving down to Charlotte, North Carolina with Maggie about 8 years ago. And the O'Connor Method is a sequence of many tune, starting from the very beginning up until to include the, like, as you kind of referred to as like the college or conservatory level of advanced learning and playing. And so it's a way to learn the violin and string instruments using American music and all the things that are associated with American music, which includes music from many different eras, from contemporary music from our time, going hundreds of years back, to pick up the many genres of American music: blues, ragtime, African American spirituals, the hoedown, and then various aspects of Americana, which include Canadian Celtic music, the Mexican and South American Hispanic music, a really big Americana footprint for violin education, which had sorely been ignored for all these hundreds of years in the existence of the existence of the violin and fiddle in any kind of academic setting. And so now there's a series of books comprehensively done with exercises and history boxes contained in the method books that I poured myself into authoring over about a 10-year period, and to date, tens of thousands of students have learned out of the O'Connor method books, including right there in the Floyd, Virginia area, where the local music school in Floyd have used the O'Connor methods books.
That's really cool. Is there, I guess it's becoming more standard these days for these books to show up in music schools?
It is. I mean, it's going to be quite a process over time, but it's not dropped any in strength at all. Like, when you come out with something new that's that bold and different, there's an initial curiosity and interest, but it really has sustained across these last dozen years, and that's really exciting. And I mean, I also kept it close as far as making sure the materials were directly from me and not filtered through a big corporation, or have it changed in any way. So, when you do that, you don't have as much access to a big marketing arm as if I just sold it to Hal Leonard or something, or
right
Mel Bay. They would change it, they would edit it, and I wanted it to come right from my experiences learning the violin in the American scene, and that includes, of course, knowing and learning from the great American music legends personally.
Are violin and fiddle interchangeable terms for you?
I think the O'Connor method provides a reason why they should be interchangeable, because what we're trying to put forward is that America's great folk music should be considered American classical music.
Oh, I love that.
Because you can't really have Gershwin and Copeland without the jazz and without the fiddle music. You just can't get there. You can't get there just from Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven. You have to include the American scene, and the American scene is our great musical genres that many of them were developed on the violin to begin with. I mean, way before guitar was popular. Um, and piano. I mean, piano does not date back like the violin does, not even in American times. Especially in early American times, the violin was the most accessible instrument for all social occasions. And so that's where the music really cultivated, from the hoedown to the blues, to the spirituals, and even to ragtime. Ragtime was created on the fiddle long before, 2 generations before the piano made it more famous, as in a commercial form, with those first piano rolls and the first wave of publishing. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, and even Scott Joplin himself was a fiddler, and his dad was a slave fiddler. So
Wow.
it's incredible history there. That's very powerful, and that music is really is the foundation for every American music style that we know today, including, of course, rock and roll, hip hop, country music. So, and the violin was central to it. That whole story has been largely swept under the rug in academic settings, really, until the O'Connor method came out, and it's really exposed it to a lot of, teachers, pedagogues, and schools.
That's an incredible little synopsis there. I did not know that. Beautiful piece of history. I've already gone over our time limit here, but I wanted to ask a couple quick ones. So Maggie, your chief instrument, I guess, is also fiddle, while Mark plays fiddle and guitar and mandolin and some other things too. Do you delve into any other instruments, at least on recording?
On the recording, I do. Of course, there's the vocals, and there's actually I play a little bit of cello on the album as well. We have this amazing tradition at our string camps where we have this award called the Daniel Pearl Memorial Instrument Award. And during the pandemic, these beautiful instruments that normally are awarded to students at the O'Connor Method Camp for a year, they get to play it for a whole year, and then they return it to us. And since we didn't have the string camp in person for a couple years, the instruments found their ways back to us since they had to return them eventually. And so we had these gorgeous quartet. There's 2 violins, a viola, and a cello that were at our house while we were recording our overdubs for the album. And so Mark and I decided to use the Daniel Pearl Quartet of instruments on the album. So Mark played violin and viola, and I played violin and cello, and we created these beautiful quartet arrangements. And we even so you can hear that on We Just Happened to Fly. That track has the quartet featured on it. So I'm on the cello and violin for that. And then you can also hear us turned into a string orchestra. Mark and I created a whole string orchestra from them as well, as a bunch of instruments around the house. And you can hear that on the Stevie Wonder song, Love's in Need of Love Today.
I love that. Will you tell us a little more about those camps? I didn't know that was something you all did.
Yes, so we have the O'Connor Method String Camp is in Charlotte, North Carolina now. Mark's been doing string camps, wherever he's lived over the past 20 years or so. And they've become O'Connor Method camps, so they're based off the book. So we'll have our classes in the morning, and then in the afternoons we have the recital and the orchestra, and then we turn around and have a jam session. And that's been my dream, just to see, growing up doing, as a violin student, doing all the things a classical violinist does. You do the youth orchestra, you go to conservatory. But I would meet these incredible string players that did not have the skill set to be able to have a jam session, to be able to improvise, as well as read music in orchestra. And so my dream was always to be able to create a world where that exists, and that's just the norm. And we do that now. We're doing it at our camp. So we'll have orchestra and then turn around and end the day with a beautiful jam session. And we're teaching people how to do it of all ages and all levels. It's everybody together. The sense of community is just incredible. So that's in Charlotte, North Carolina, every summer, July 28th this year.
Yeah, for a week.
A week long.
We teach there every day.
Violin, viola, cello, and bass.
Other faculty. And then we're going to also do a teacher training session in Charlotte the week before for teachers. And we do that a few times a year. So we teach teachers how to better use these method books to their students.
That's a great endeavor. I love that. And so it's students of all kinds. How do they just sign up for the camp, or is there a submission process? How does that work?
Yeah, they just sign up. There's no audition process, so they just go to o'connormethod.com. And I love it because I think the youngest age is 7, and we'll have people sign up age 70 that are just starting violin. But we also have advanced students come, all ages and all levels really, and we have classes for every level.
That's really cool. I love that you're giving back to younger people and maybe older people too. Victor Wooten does a similar sort of camp. I always thought that was the coolest idea.
Yeah, it creates such a wonderful sense of community, and for the violin especially, which is also, it's always been kind of thought of as an elite instrument that, we want to make it more inclusive, and this method, it really is a great vehicle for that. Everybody can play music together and not feel like they're missing out on, like you can have the beginners just doing some rhythm, and then, the hot shot soloists, they can take a solo. So everybody can participate and really enjoy themselves.
Very cool. If someone didn't know anything about fiddle or violin and wanted to go out and get one and get started, what would you recommend they do?
Oh, yeah. Go to their local violin shop and get them a nice instrument set up and get an O'Connor Method book. You can actually go to o'connormethod.com and there's a Find a Teacher page, and there's just hundreds of teachers that have been certified in the O'Connor Method. So you can search by your state, and it has the city where they live. And even if you don't have a certified teacher in your area, you just get the books, and just learning from these books is incredible what you're getting. You don't even realize the language, the history, the musical styles you're getting just by learning from the books. And then you just come to camp.
Yeah. and also most teachers out there will teach from the O'Connor Method if the student wants it. So
yeah, so you can find any violin teacher and just have them teach you from the book.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. We've gone double our time, so I really appreciate you all spending so much time speaking with me today. If you have anything you want to promote or put out there before we go, feel free, but otherwise I will let you off the hook.
Well, we're looking forward to playing. Your magazine covers the Floyd Country Store, right?
We sure do, yeah.
And then we'll be in Richmond for the Tin Pan 2 days before that. That will be on the 24th.
Awesome. We've got a few contacts up Richmond way. What's the Tin Pan like up there?
That will be our first time there, but
Very
we
cool.
understand it's a very great music listening room. we're in the portion of our tour where we're hitting several listening rooms in a row. So,
Sure.
and then for the most part, we usually do performing arts centers and concert halls. And we did a few of those as well. So we've done a little bit of everything on our rollout of Life After Life. We did the big Nashville press tour and the Grand Ole Opry and Country Music Hall of Fame. We did some performing arts centers. We played with the symphony, and then we're doing a series of listening rooms right now. So it's really comprehensive, and it must be working because our album Life After Life is currently number 4 in Billboard Bluegrass chart, and
I saw that.
And then a couple weeks ago, it was number 7 in the classical crossover chart as well in Billboard.
Congratulations. I hope it keeps climbing.
That's pretty cool. And then it's getting some Americana airplay, which is so exciting. People, writing into our Facebook and Instagram saying that they just heard one of our songs on their radio station. And then our YouTubes, we have music videos of most of the original songs off the new album already out there, and the YouTubes are doing very well. Musically, these nicely produced music videos that we created for the original songs, and that you can check out our YouTube channel, Mark and Maggie O'Connor YouTube channel.
Awesome, thank you. The show in Floyd, do you have a routine or typical show dialed in, or are there improvisational or surprise methods that might crop up?
Well, what's the neat thing about the set list that we're kind of like transitioning is that really that combination of our vocal music with older instrumental tunes. And we're just discovering this really cool balance between that. And it's been a wonderful journey those last couple of years, realizing that we can do this. It doesn't have to be all instrumental. It doesn't have to be all vocal. It can be really this new thing that we've discovered together as a duo. And so it's been a real kick. And then I've got the guitar and the violin or the mandolin going. So bringing all that into our duo setting has been really fun, and the audiences seem to be really loving it.
Beautiful. Yeah, that gives you lots of different elements to work with for sure. All right, folks. Well, I think I am out of questions, and I will let you go, but I so appreciate you spending so much time talking today.
Thanks so much.